Wonderful. Thank you, Gregory.
Thank
And welcome,
you.
everybody. I'm very, very happy to be here tonight and being able to step into some big, big shoes. Robin Blank Mascari, as she is on the mend from a little accident over the holidays. So what we want to do tonight is this call is about supporting you. If you're brand new and you're a guest, we are super, super excited that you're here with us. And we hope that you'll walk away with a little bit better understanding of what this technology does. I'm going to be really, really honest with you. When I was first introduced to this technology, getting close to just about 4 years ago, I wasn't really sure about this. This seemed like the craziest thing I had ever heard. And my husband said, "What are these?" And I said, "Well, they're supposed to activate your stem cells." And he goes, "Great, I'll try them." So thankfully, my husband Barry became my guinea pig. And thankfully, he had gotten himself a wound while out doing some yard work. He had a puncture wound the diameter of a quarter in his inner thigh. And it was a terrible, nasty wound. And I just looked at it and thought, well, this is going to take forever to heal. And sure enough, about 6 days later, he looks at me and he says, "Look at this." I said, "What is it?" He said, "That's that wound." And it was a teeny little scar, almost like something he had had since he was a child. I mean, in 6 days, that massive wound had healed. Well, that got my attention. And then I started looking for other changes in him until the point that I said, okay, I'm going to give this a try. So it's a really exciting technology. We see miracles every day. But as you're thinking about sharing tonight also, remember that this is there are big things that can make a difference. And sometimes people think, well, I'm not sick or I don't need this. Well, everybody needs this. We're talking reverse aging here. And we're talking about some of the little things. Um, Even when you get down to more energy, better sleep. I mean, these are all important for repair, and who doesn't want that, right? A sense of well-being, less stress, greater mood. These are the things that every single person is looking for. So what I'm going to ask people to do is I'm going to ask you to raise your hand if you have something to share. There's a reaction button. It's a little smiley face on your menu bar. And when you click on that, you can raise your hand and Gregory will promote you. And then I would ask that you just keep it to a quick 1 minute story so that you can share maybe what's happened with you in using X39. And then I'm going to bring on my co-host tonight, Anne Moreau. Anne, if you'd like to go ahead and unmic and unmute. Anne is one of my absolute top leaders in this business, and we just have a blast working together. I mean, if we go more than one day not talking, I'm like, "Have you missed me?" She is an RN nutritionist. She has over 40 years being an RN. She has a background in nutrition. Everything I have learned about microbiome rebuild, gut health has come from her and Dr. Tom Acklin, who she sponsored into the business, and so many others. So Anne's going to be here with me. And Anne, while we're waiting for a couple of those hands to go up of people who said they wanted to share tonight, could you just give a little bit of a brief overview of the technology and what it is and how it works?
Sure. And like you, Connie, and Connie was the one who shared this technology with me. And I initially did not understand this technology either. I mean, I understood nutrition, I understood cellular health, and I understood, as she said, microbiome work. And so for me, initially, it was I had to do a lot of research, right? And check the clinical studies out. So, and I want to talk a little bit more about our foundational product, which is the X39 patch, because that is the tool in the toolbox for your body. It does everything, right? And when you do your part, it's even more effective. So having a healthy lifestyle is extremely important as well. So GHK copper peptide is what this particular patch will activate. It supports this activation of this copper peptide, and this copper peptide is a 3 amino acid short chain that does a whole lot of things. Copper is your carrier molecule, and so it is what makes everything work more effectively. It has so many abilities, not only what Connie talked about, but we hear stories about scar remodeling. We hear things like wound healing, and that totally was my very first experience. I got deep sleep the first night, much like Connie did, but didn't notice anything else. But my son came over a couple weeks later, had an eye injury he's a glass blower, and had a lot of pain and burning in the eye. And I thought, well, it's supposed to help with wound healing. It's supposed to help with pain. It's supposed to help with inflammation. And he had all those things. So I patched him behind his neck. I put the patch right behind his neck on C7. He hung out for about 20, 30 minutes. And as he was leaving, he turned and said, "Hey, it's gone." So he totally, in 20, 30 minutes, had no more pain, no more burning. The redness in the eye, the tearing stopped, and he was able to go back to work and not see anyone. So it was pretty exciting. That was my first experience. And so it really increases that belief system when you totally see and experience it. But when we think about physics, right, none of us are studying quantum physics. At least I never did. Some people have, but I had never studied it. And so, understanding this was not an easy journey for me. But once I got it, I had also worked in an acupuncturist office. So I kind of understood meridians, like in Eastern medicine, and how energy that's blocked will contribute to what we often have for medical conditions, right? So it was wonderful to learn that these patches open a lot of these meridians and allow the pathways to open up and rejuvenate the body.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ann. And as we go along, we'll talk a little more about how it works, why it works, all of those things. But I'd like to see if Mary is coming in. And Mary is also an RN nutritionist. You can see who's attracted to this a little bit. So Mary, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and share your story right now with us real quick. And you're going to see as Mary shares her story, keep it under about a minute, stick to symptoms. Here's what was going on before. I used X39. Here's what happened. That would be great.
Sure. So actually, this is about my hairstylist, who's a very healthy 43-ish stylist. And I just sampled her on the X39 and followed up with her the next day. I gave her one. She put it on that morning. It was a 9 a.m. appointment that I had with her. So I followed up the next day and I said, "So how'd you feel?" She's like, "Oh my gosh. Well, I usually suffer from low back pain all the time, and I have muscle cramps." Now, this is a gal that does a lot of hiking. I mean, she's really active. And so she went the whole day. She said, "My back didn't hurt me all day long. I can't believe it. This has never happened. And I don't have any muscle cramps." And so she signed up as a preferred customer just a couple of days after that. And she's been wearing them now for about 5 months. She absolutely loves them. That's just,
Fabulous.
yeah, it's
Fabulous.
great.
Everybody needs, and that's a perfect example. Here she is in her 40s, but with a very, very physical job. And I can tell you as a hairstylist of 42 years, it is amazing what this technology can do. Thank you so much. Linda Eberhardt, can you go ahead and unmute? Oh, Linda Laudermilk. I'm sorry, Linda Laudermilk. I don't know. Gregory, do you have Linda on there?
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
There
It
you
just took me a
are.
moment.
There she
I'm on
is.
my iPad. I have to get acclimated. So I'd like to share my story. And what happened with me is I had a vaccine injury that basically affected my ability to use my arms and legs. I could not move them. So I started on X39 and Eon for the inflammation. And understand my doctor had me on a host of medications that have a lot of side effects, not good. So after almost 6 weeks on the patches, all of my inflammatory markers went back to normal. And I have full range of motion now, thanks to the patches. I went back to see my doctor. He really didn't know what to say to me, kind of gave me a pat on the back and wished me well. And all I can say is thank goodness for X39 and Eon, because it's nice to be back to normal after
Linda,
going through that.
I watched you from when you started to go and through this, and just to say, even now you look completely different than you did. Just your skin, the glow, the vibrancy. It's amazing, and thank goodness to your friend who went out of her way to share this with you when, when you were going through those struggles. So thank you so much
Absolutely.
for that. Thank you, thank you. And can you talk a little bit about why in the case, because you did work with Linda and with her brand partner, and why would you choose? We always start with X39. So let's talk a little bit about why we always start with X39. Dr. Pena, I love when he says, it's the patch to rule them all. And so let's talk a little bit about that, and then why in certain circumstances like Linda's you might add in a patch like Eon in the beginning with the X39.
Yeah, I always start with X39 because X39 does so many things. And so, in her case, we wanted to make sure that, she would absolutely begin to regenerate healthier cells. I mean, she had a lot of damage, but she also had a lot of inflammation. And we know that X39 will help with the inflammation, but when you have the level of damage that she had post-vaccine, I knew that she needed a little bit more support. And the Eon patch is known to reduce inflammation in the body. And so it was vitally important. All of her markers were elevated. And the Eon patch not only benefits with the inflammation, but it also helps to balance the parasympathetic sympathetic nervous system. So the parasympathetic sympathetic nervous system was out of whack. She was totally out of balance. And I knew the Eon patch was going to do that for her, bring down that inflammation, balance her central nervous system, the stress that she was under. Her body was under a lot of stress. The organs were under a lot of stress. So bringing that all down with the X39, which does so many things, really would help her. And we saw a huge change in 6 weeks. It was really quite amazing. It was shocking to hear her, call me back and say, "You're not going to believe this. I just went to see the doctor." And so it was really powerful. So thank you, Linda, for that powerful story.
Oh my gosh, yes, I love it. And Mark Holden, can you go ahead and come in and unmute yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, you might have to turn your camera on because you're actually me right now. So,
It's not letting me do
I'm
that.
going to
but
let some of you know that it's not letting you put on the camera.
no, because it was,
Gregory, can you let Mark put on the
Yeah, you
camera?
should be able to do it now, Mark. Try it. There you go.
okay, there we
There
go.
you are.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mark. I will tell you that Mark's another one of our leaders, and he does a call for me on Wednesday night on Manager Makers, which has been fabulous, but that's why you see him accidentally popping in with me. Go ahead and share.
Okay, over the weekend, I heard from a brand new brand partner, a fellow who has struggled with a breathing disorder that's progressive as he gets older. And at some point, we'll love to get him on to be able to share his own story. But because of his breathing condition, he monitors his oxygen levels daily, and sent a screenshot of his oxygen monitor, which is reading 100, which of course it's a perfect oxygen level, blood oxygen level. First time in 5 years that he has been able to have that kind of blood level after 3 weeks on X39. Just rejoicing for him.
That is fantastic, fantastic. And Mark, actually, I would love for you to share maybe a quick, so I don't see another hand up right now. One of your stories from that, your own personal stories would be great as well.
Yeah, I love to do that. About 8 or 9 years ago, I observed a growth, and this will be very personal. If you're not able to handle personal stories, oh well, here it goes anyway. Observed growth, small pea-sized growth in my scrotum next to one of my testicles. A couple of months later, I noticed a second one and decided I better have it checked out. Went to the doctor, and they told me that I had what they called a sebaceous cyst, or a couple of them growing in my scrotum. And he said, by the way, you've got a third one growing on the other side. they're non-malignant, not going to bother anything. They're just going to continue perhaps to grow and may become a nuisance at some time. Over the course of 9 years, they've continued to grow to the place where they were larger than my testicles. And so about 2.5 months into the patches, and we were using X39, X49, my right side became very aggravated, very sore. I started running a fever, and I was thinking, oh no, I'm going to have something done with that. A week later, I noticed that the cyst on that side was gone. Just totally gone. It was amazing. And I mean, after 9 years and something that I thought was going to eventually be a real issue, and X39 is taking care of that for me. So thankful for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that personal story, Mark. Thank you. Anne, can you pop back on? And then I'm going to go to Linda Eberhardt and then to Adele. Anne, can you talk a little bit, just briefly, about why X39 it can work in so many different ways? What is going on? What is it that your body is doing, and how are stem cells able to figure out where to go and what to do without you deciding?
Yeah, that's a powerful story that Mark shared with that gentleman. And in fact, any of you who are very interested in knowing more about why would that happen, go to PubMed and put in, the copper peptide, GHK-Cu peptide, and put in lung. Just do that and do your research, and you will see the amazing amount of research that's been done on this copper peptide. It is just simply amazing. There's a couple of books that have been written, one of them called The Copper Peptide Breakthrough by Laurent Picard. He did 50 years of research on this particular copper peptide. There it is. Connie's showing it to you. Dr. Laurent Picard. And David wanted to know, and he wanted to create a system that would activate this copper peptide. And, again, you can certainly, there are some, practitioners who have used other methods of activating that copper peptide, but nothing has really worked well doing that. So, what David did is he went to work to create a frequency in the patch that would activate that particular copper peptide. It took him 15 years to find, that particular frequency. And remember, frequencies like the sun has a frequency that will activate vitamin D in the body. There's another frequency in the body that will activate your melanin to tan your skin. So frequencies are, in the patch. When you look at the patch, and I have one on, it's a patch that looks like this. And within that white area of the patch, David has put together a combination of amino acids, sugars, nanocrystals, and the crystals are in different shapes, so that when the heat of your body, the infrared heat of your body, will activate that frequency in that patch, and there'll be a signal given to the body to activate the light. We are light beings. We come from light. We're created from light. And when light gets blocked because of whether it be a medical condition, whether it be whatever it is, pain, whatever's going on, when you can move that energy in the body, you can then, allow that blockage and that energy to flow through the body, and that infrared heat of the body reflects that light back to the brain gets a signal, and all of a sudden we start to see changes occur in the body. We know that the copper peptide will reset 4,000 genes in the body, a third of your genome. Over time, you will see amazing things happen. I mean, in my particular case, I didn't notice anything right away. It took me 6 months. We recommend that people give it for every decade of life. You give it a full month. Now I'm 71. I had to give it 7 months. But I did notice in the 6th month that I had a little mole on my chest that fell. My skin was changing. I didn't need to use lotions anymore. So there were a lot of things going on. My blood pressure started dropping. So lots of different changes occurred when I gave it that amount of time that my body needed to regenerate, rejuvenate the body, over time.
I love it. Thank you, Anne. And stay on with us for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and have Linda share and Adele share, and then we want to come back and talk about kind of just the simple rules. It's a super easy, thing to use. It's super simple. Nothing's going in your body, completely non-transdermal, no drugs going in, no chemicals going in. So we'll share a little bit about that after Adele and Linda share. So Linda, go ahead.
Okay, I have a couple things that are kind of fun. My husband has had an issue probably since he was in his 50s, and he's older than that now, like 80 something. And his issue is with the prostate, and he's had quite a few procedures and so forth to try to control the size. And so he hadn't been in to see his doctor, his urologist, for a year. He went in a week ago. And the urologist told him, of course I wasn't with him, that his prostate went from 100 down to 59. And so when he came home, I said, what does that mean? It can't be PSA. That should be, I think his was running like 3 or 4. So the doctor called me today because I left a message, and I said, this is Milk Everhart's wife. Would you please ask him what that means? Because I wanted to know for this call tonight. And so what he told me when he called me back is he said the normal size of a male prostate is 25. They measure it in cubic inches or something or whatever. And he said milk was at 100. So 4 times the size it should have been. And that was 1 year ago. And now it's gone down to 59. So it's gone down to double what it should be. But can you imagine that it's gone down that much? And we haven't been on the patches for even 4 months. It won't be 4 months until next week. So we're excited about that. And then the other thing is, and Anne, you know about this, I sent you the picture, but I had a Sweeney cell, I had a growth on my leg. And when they removed it to do the biopsy, I had a size of a nickel on my shin bone that they couldn't fit because there's no skin there. So you can't bring the skin together. And so they told me that I would just have to go home and, have an open wound. So 2.5 months later, when I went back and had the Mohs surgery, they couldn't do the skin graft for the same reason, because it wouldn't take, because there's not enough blood in your shin bone and you post your ankle, so there's very little blood there. When they sent me home with a quarter-size oval wound, it was about 1/4 of an inch deep. And it was draining like crazy into my shoe, my sock. I had to wear dressing that would absorb some of the liquid. It was really, I can't tell you, it was just a hit in my leg. And it actually healed over with skin in 6 weeks. And the doctor told me that it wouldn't heal for months because
I love it.
He said it probably would be 4 to 6 months because he said there's so little blood that flows in that area. And when I went back in, and he couldn't believe it. He said, "What do you have? What did you put on it?" I said, "I put on a stem cell patch." Oh, well, I have to start recommending those. But then I didn't get any further than that. But I have another appointment in 3 months, so
That's wonderful. Thank you, thank you, Linda. I appreciate that. Okay, Adele, come on in.
I'm here. I can't undo the video.
Okay, I'll ask if Gregory will see if you can.
Okay, thanks, Gregory. I wanted to share about my mom. She turned 100 in September. I've shared this a few times before. And 4 years ago, her memory had gotten so bad that she couldn't live alone any longer. She had been able to do that until then. So she moved in with my sister, and I used to go visit and stay a month at a time just to kind of help out and let my sister have a break. She had no idea who I was. She had no idea who my sister was. She'd say, "Who's that lady that walks around here sometimes?" She had no idea. And she would just names and people. She was, typical of someone with severe memory issues. And in June 2022, we put her on X39. We moved her to a facility in Charleston, and my brother would take X39 and put it on her when he saw her, and then take it off and put a new one on a few days later when he saw her the next time, which wasn't ideal. And so eventually we were able to get the doctor's order to have her put on her regularly. And her birthday was this past September. She knew all of us by name, not just my sister, brother, and I. She was the life of the party. Then she said to her aide that morning, I made it. I turned 100. Prior to that, she had no idea how old she was, when her birthday was, if it had already happened, just totally different. And a month after convention, or right after convention, I went to see her again in October and surprised her, and she was sleeping, and I woke her up, and she had no idea I was coming. And it took her a minute to wake up, but when she did, she goes, Adele, I had no idea. I didn't know you were coming. And I thought she really knew who I was. So
Wow.
it was
That's
very, very,
precious.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Thank you. Thank you for that share. That is so amazing. And when you look at the studies of X39, you will see the brain studies that they did with PsyTech, and you'll actually be able to see the changes in the brain at 3 weeks, at 6 weeks, and everything is cumulative. And so there were some people asking about some things in the chat, some Q&A questions, and the whole point becomes stick with the X39. If you have a lot of inflammation, if you have some pain, you might add in the Eon, or you might need IceWave for really, really high levels of pain initially, but X39 will get to everything. So Anne, what would you tell the new person? There's only 2 rules, right, to the patch. Can you talk about those 2 rules and the importance of them and how simple it is to get started on this technology and use this technology on a regular basis?
Well, you already mentioned it's non-transdermal, so I don't worry about, my mom is 93 and I don't worry. She takes medication and I never worry because there's no interaction. There's nothing entering the body. So we don't have to worry about that piece. It's 12 hours on, 12 hours off. So, if you can follow that rule of 12 hours, 12 hours on, 12 hours off, the patches are going to work much more effectively because you're giving your brain a break from the signal, right? So if you're always getting the signal, the brain is not going to recognize that signal. So, making sure you remove it for the 12-hour period is really important. As well as drinking a lot of water. So you want to drink water. We encourage people to drink at least, half of your body weight in ounces of water. So for example, I weigh about 104, so I tend to drink about 7 ounces of water a day, sometimes more, because I keep that bottle handy with me at all times, drinking it. And also, you want to make sure that you're consistent because consistency is important. If you're only going to use it once in a while, it's not going to be as effective. You're going to get far better benefits, making sure that you're also, drinking the water and wearing it consistently.
Absolutely. And you said that with, and just to be very clear and specific, there are 30 patches in a sleeve, so 30 days of patches in that sleeve, and you're going to, after you wear it for 12 hours, I'm probably at my 12-hour mark. So you're then going to take it off, you're going to discard it, and then in the morning, 12 hours later, you'll go ahead and put a new patch back on. So it's just absolutely that simple to use. And I love what Robin Blanc-Mascari talks about with the water. It really is about, you really look at your urine. You don't want it clear. You don't want it dark yellow. You want it kind of pale yellow. And that's a really great way to tell if you're being hydrated. And it's not about gulping lots of water and getting it all down at once. It's about continuously hydrating throughout the day. And some people, as they start to use X39, they may notice that their mouth gets a little drier. And a lot of times that's a detox, right? And so it's almost your body's signal to get more fluid in there so you can flush the toxins out and detox with that. So with that being said, is there anything else that you can think of, Anne, that you would like to share before we wrap up and share with people how they can get started?
Sure. So, for me, it's really important for people to understand that, and I mentioned this already, that, you need to eat well, so you want to make sure you're eating really well. You want to make sure that you also are, we talked about drinking, understand that drinking water allows your metabolism to work better. It allows energy to flow better. You get, better energy when you're drinking more water because, food, is converted into energy, and water helps that happen. So we want to make sure we're drinking all that water in order for our bodies and our metabolism to work better. We want to exercise. We want to make sure that we're getting the right amount of sleep as well. So those things are all extremely beneficial to your overall health. If you're supplementing, you're going to find the supplements are going to work better with X39. Connie, you have a powerful story about that as well.
Absolutely. I had been a supplement junkie for probably 20 years, and I had been using the same supplements, the same amounts. I would go every year. I'd run all my micronutrients, all of my blood work to see. And so I had just had some blood work done about 2 months after that. I had started using X39. So for I would say it was about 6 months into using X39, I decided I'm going to rerun this blood work. I'm going to see what happened. And what I noticed, I'm just two simple things to think of. I was taking DHEA and I was taking vitamin D. I had had those levels had been the same for 16 years. They had always run the same. I did not change what my numbers, or I did not change the amount I was supplementing, but my numbers went up over 50%. And what that said was my body was now utilizing the resources I was giving it much, much more effectively. So that's a big, big deal to have a 50% increase in your numbers just by using that patch every day. So absolutely, Anne.
Question about eye health in the Q&A. And I know, Connie, that you personally had a gentleman that had similar problems with eye pressure and other issues with his eyes. And just using the X39 over a year, it took a year,
Yep.
he went in to see his physician. And what happened, Connie?
Well, it was really great because he didn't start on the X39 because of this issue. He started on it because he had injured his shoulder and he had shoulder pain, and he was in his early 80s. And I patched him up. I got him out of pain, and he started using it. And about 3 months in, his shoulder was healed and doing great. So he decided he'd stop using the patch. Well, thank goodness his wife said to him, you were far nicer and you had more energy when you were on that patch. So I really think you should get back on it. And so he did. He got back on it. And in a year and 1 month, he came walking into my salon and he said, "You're not going to believe this. I had this in this eye. I had this and that, one pressure and one that is probably the leading cause of blindness in aging people, very common disorders." And he said, all three of my doctors have said, this cannot be cured. This cannot be healed. The best we can do is to try to slow it down so you don't go blind. So they were doing injections in his eyes monthly to slow this down. And he said, all three of my doctors have said they've never seen this before. If they weren't looking at my chart and examining me, they wouldn't believe it. But I have no evidence of disease in either eye. And fast forward now, he's been on the technology over 3 years, maybe 3.5 years. And he says the one doctor, they kept just extending. One doctor's like, I don't need to see you anymore. Like it's still completely gone, and he's in his 80s. But the point to that's so important is if he had got off at 3 months, when the shoulder stopped hurting, he would have never gotten to his miracle. So it is cumulative. It does change things over time. And your stem cells and all their wisdom, I love Dr. Pena will talk about them being little smart bombs. And Dr. Shauna, she talks about them being little robovacs. Your stem cells will go around your body and they will figure out what to fix in the order of importance to your body, not what you want to fix. So give it time.
Yeah, and two more things. One is that you always start with X39 and give it a good 60 to 90 days so that you can really experience what X39 can do for you. And if you're not getting the results, get back with the person that invited you or that shared the patches with you, and then start trying some of the other patches along with X39. But X39 is going to be your long game. You want to keep that patch on because you're going to see miracles happen over time. If you give your body that opportunity to regenerate and to activate those stem cells are going to start to repair the greatest damage in the body. So if it's heart or if it's one of your major organs, that is where the work's going to be done first. It may not be what you want, but it will happen over time. Once these other things are repaired, the stem cells will then go and repair other areas in the body. But you have to give it time, because time will allow you to see major changes. I mean, my vision has improved after 3 years. I mean, I had, this film over my eyes, and that's gone. So, I didn't expect that. That wasn't something that I thought was going to happen. But because I've been consistent with it, and I've tried some new patches and brought some of those in over time, I've seen amazing things happen, and things will change for you as well.
Well, and you get to the fun part too. So let's say you don't have a lot of damage. You've done a lot of work. You don't have a lot of damage. Guess what? You get to the fun stuff faster. Fine lines and wrinkles disappearing, hair getting thicker. There's a lot of really fun stuff that starts to happen when the body's not working on major things. So those, you'll get to those quicker.
Yeah, and people who have issues that are like athletic and they want to increase performance and those kinds of things, they can add an X49. And that X49, X39 combination is simply amazing when it comes to improving the muscle mass, fat burning, bone density, increasing and helping with the repair of the cells of the cardiovascular system. All of those things can happen over time.
Absolutely. And taking it just that, who isn't that's a high performer looking for that little bit of edge, right? Who isn't even a weekend warrior or out, loves to golf, and they're looking for, I just want to get that swing back again. I just want to be able to drive that ball a little bit further. These are the fun things that start to happen. So, Anne, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight and for sharing all of your wisdom with everybody. And for those of you that are guests, please get back to the person that invited you. They are going to show you how to get their wholesale pricing of this technology. It is very, very, very affordable. And thank you again for joining us. And we will see you soon. Bring back a friend next week. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.